And so since the recording started just now, we are in the Dragon Dreaming Confestival session on Tuesday, 4th of October, 1600 hours Central European time. And we're talking about the Karabirrdt in co-housing projects and how it works for a co-housing project. And we have 5 participants plus Malo, so 6, if I understood the name correct. Actually, 3 of you are from the same sort of co-housing project, if I understood that correctly. And Ferian is from California and Cornelia is from Germany. So it's a German, Austrian, Californian meeting. We have like 1 hour, so it's like 45 minutes left. What I would like to do is give you first a little virtual tour through the wohnprojekt.wien that I just mentioned, that I'm sitting in now, and then I would like to discuss the topic of how does the Karabirrdt work or how can it work, or how could we alter it to make it better work for co-housing projects and communities. So if that's fine with everybody, I would start the virtual tour. Is that okay? Yeah. So just give me a second to share the screen. So that's just the header. It's the Karabirrdt for co-housing projects. Today's date. This is my name. That's my website if you want to visit me, and that's the link for the session or for the whole festival. So the virtual tour through wohnprojekt.wien. How did we get to the idea? How did the core group found itself? What was the project vision? And how did the planning and building work? So that's the four reasons, the 4 points. And the 5th point afterwards is like the good life in praxis, since we live here already almost 9 years. So I can also tell you a little bit how is it after you moved in, after all these years of planning and building and working hard. So it all started with me taking a sabbatical in 2005, 2006, when I did a 1-year sabbatical, traveled the world with a backpack, and for myself found out that the life I was living then was the life of a neoliberal executive. And then I found out that to me, that is not the way I want to live the rest of my life. I decided to change dramatically and become sort of a eco pioneer and founder of the wohnprojekt.wien, because I decided I want to live with a lower carbon footprint. So I also sold my company, since I didn't want to support this kind of system that uses up all the resources for our children and grandchildren. So, and the one of the major things was, or one of the major impressions that made me change my whole life was this old Greyhound, refurbished Greyhound bus that was run by a kind of post-hippie startup company called Green Tortoise, and they doing overland tours through Alaska. And I traveled Alaska with 20 absolute strangers. In this bus, we made thousands of miles, and we had the kitchen on the top, and we were sleeping in bunk beds inside or in tents outside if we were somewhere or not. And this changed my way of thinking, because prior to that, I always thought I'm sort of the lonesome cowboy type. I cannot cope with other people. And then being cramped together with 20 total strangers for 2 weeks made me realize that it has really lots of advantages. If you share the day-to-day chores of your daily life, you can get back a lot if you're prepared to, or if I am prepared to reduce my ego a little bit. So that is what I'm trying ever since. So, and this is the core group that I then started to find in Austria. to start a co-housing project in Austria. And that was our Dragon Dreaming workshop in the January of 2010. So these 13 people started wohnprojekt.wien with me. The project vision that we derived from this Dragon Dreaming workshop was 4 major points. First of one was saying Individualität in Gemeinschaft. That means living as an individual, but also in community, and both needs should be possible and should be balanced. Keimzelle der Nachhaltigkeit means we want to be a seeding cell of sustainability or of sustainable living. We want to create living spaces, which was also sort of the task for the architects to make that happen. And also what we call the Gute Lebenwagen. So translation, hopefully good, is daring the good life, you know, not going into the trap that many eco-activists go, that say, okay, humans are a parasite on the earth, and if we eventually distinct, then Earth can survive. The idea is to have a good life and still reduce your carbon footprint. So how can you do that? So this was 2 of my fellow founders. We celebrated when we won a competition to get the possibility to build in the midst of Vienna, in the 2nd district, which is like right in the center of Vienna. And for the celebration of this milestone, which was in our Dragon Dreaming workshop, they baked a cake as the house looks. And if you see the house later, you will recognize it. This is exactly how it looks today. And we ate the cake when we celebrated. So this was before the house was built. That was the building site. And little me, where I stand here on the bottom and on the building site, is now our big community space where we have big rooms for getting together. This is Christine, my wife. She's pointing at the drawing at the building site, at the computer graph, to her apartment where she lives, and right 1 floor beneath her is my apartment. So my wife and I, we have each 1 little apartment. How does that work? That's easy because we are in the post breeding phase, so we don't have small kids, and then it's easier to live other kind of ways. And this is this was a flight with a cameraman from German TV station Dreisat in the cabin of the crane, as you see, and we're flying over the building site when there was 4 floors already built, 4 floors of 7. The building has 7 floors, and you will see how it's finished later on. People who might know Vienna recognize here, this is the Mexico Kirche, and that means just behind this house, the Danube passes by. So it's on one side very close to the 1st district, and on the other side, it's very close to the Danube, and you have a great recreation area. That was the group just a couple of months before we moved in. And dates, and I go very fast through this because it's just a brief introduction. We built 39 apartments. We have 3,300 square meter living space, so that's about 35,000 square foot, and 700 square meters of community space, that's about 7,500 square foot, and 350 square meters commercial space, where we also have rent out offices and run a eco food store and stuff. And we own it together as an association. That's a similar concept like in a cooperative. So we have community ownership. That means nobody owns his or her apartment. That's actually a difference to a classical co-housing project, as people refer to in the United States, for instance, where you buy your own apartment or house and you can sell it. I cannot sell my apartment if I die or move out. I cannot say I want you or you or you to get it. The community decides who gets my apartment. So that way we thought we can better make sure that the values that we created in our vision can survive the first and second movement or changes of flats. We are organized in a society of fashion. If there's any interest in that, we can have a brief chat about that as well. We are about 70 adults and 35 kids, so it's 100 people living here. We founded the association in autumn 29, And we had this competition in 2010, and we started 2011 building, and we moved in Christmas 2013. So this is how it looks today. So actually, I'm sitting here now. This is where I'm sitting now, and I'm looking out here, and this is where the kids now scream and have a good life. And still it's in the middle of Vienna, but we chose a spot where we don't have cars in front of the house. We just have lots of kids and people. So, and community spaces is, we have a big community kitchen. I will show you afterwards. So I just go through briefly through the list. We have a children's playroom. We have a big bike garage, because as Ecos, we don't want to have many cars. So we rather take the bike. We have 2 conference rooms instead of the parking that we would have had to build legally. We used a trick to get out of this binding, so we didn't build car parking. We have a wash salon, a laundrette. We have a food coop where we buy organic food from nearby farmers in bulk and share it amongst ourselves. We have workshops where you can build and repair your furnitures and do other stuff. We have 3 guest apartments on the penthouse. We said the nicest places for the guests. So there is no long-term individual living on the rooftop terrace, but the guest apartments you will see just now. We have a common library, because the idea, obviously, as you probably all know, is that you reduce your amount of square meters you need for your individual apartment or space, because you can outsource lots of things of your day-to-day life into the community space. So in the end, you use less square meter per person, but still you have a better life because you can take part of all these community rooms. And we have a sauna and a relaxation room on the rooftop terrace, and there is 2 of those terraces. So I will give you a tour just from the ground floor, lower floor, then up to the rooftop terrace, quick with a few pictures. That was a picture just after we moved in. You see it looks still very sterile and new. It looks different now, obviously, 10 years later. And this, what looks like a graveyard here, is where we built our raised vegetable, how you say, Hochbeete, our raised vegetable beds. You will see later. This is the lower floor. This is actually the cellar, if you might say. But what the architects did very clever is they made this sunken garden, so you get lots of daylight into the lower floor. And also there's an opening towards the children's playroom and towards the community kitchen. So you have many side contacts. So this is one of the ways the architects interpreted our point in the vision, that they have to create community spaces. And this is 2 pictures, obviously. This is a picture of the lower floor again, where by law we would have been forced to build car parking there. So we would have had to build 1 parking space per apartment, and 1 per each commercial room. So we would have had to build about 44 car parking spaces. So the whole ground floor would have been used with cars, which we didn't want, because we don't want that many cars. So as said, we used a little trick to get out of it. And this is the ground floor looking down from the children's playroom towards the area that you saw just now. And this is looking through the glass to the community kitchen that you will see just now, just later. This is the lower floor when we use it for parties, for instance. This was a wedding that some neighbors had, or we have concerts, that's some. And the kids obviously are also always taking part and enjoy it. Another concert we had there, also good jazz concerts. This is the group that did the furnituring of the food court room, where we store the food in the food court room. This is after they finished, so before the food gets delivered the first time. This is the workshop area in the lower floor, so where I said you can repair your own stuff. This is where some neighbors made the shelving for all the wood that we have there and store there. So this is the building now looking from the front side. You see in the ground floor, we have a little coffee shop where you can get good organic bread and great coffee and stuff and some basic foods. And it's also used by lots of the neighbors. It's very popular. This is how it looks in the evening when people gather there. This is the group of people out of our group that founded this little shop. They, for this reason, created their own company, and they are an own legal entity to run this shop. So this is the main entrance with soccer table, and here you see how we try to map out our sociocratic organization in beehives. This is when we do twice, 3 or 4 times a year, a day where we clean and repair the whole house. We call it Minga. Minga is expression we lent from Southern America. In the Andes states, there is such a tradition that the whole village gets together once or twice a year. They repair the village and clean it up, and afterwards they have a big party. And we thought this is good also in Dragon Dreaming terms for the celebration, that we have a big feast afterwards. And while the people are cleaning and repairing, already 10% of the people are in the kitchen chopping food and preparing for the party afterwards. This is how it looks afterwards when it's cleaned up. This is the kitchen in the ground floor, the community kitchen. This is from another view. I sometimes cook there as well. This is when you eat there in like small groups, and this is when you eat there in bigger groups, so that you can house more. We can also eat outside in summer when the weather is nice. We eat outside, and you see behind the fences here is where you look down towards the sunken garden. This is what I told you now, the vegetable beds that we built together with our neighbors, where we grow some veggies. This is the bike garage. We have like a storage of 400 bikes. And because the idea was that every adult and every kid should have his or her own bike there. And this is also the repair shop where you can repair and maintain your own bike. This is a split pictures, 2 pictures looking into the staircase, and you see that the floors are open, so you can talk up and down, and you have lots of communication possibilities. When you get home, you see that your neighbor 1 floor above you is also getting home, and you want to ask him or her something, then you can do that. So that's very practical. And it also helped us in pandemic times. 2 years ago, when the first lockdown was in Austria, we were not allowed to have parties. And so what we did is we had the musicians sat in the community staircase, and we could all sit in front of our apartments and hear the music and celebrate together without having too much contact. This is the library on the rooftop terrace, the common library, where we also it's also nice to have a meeting with small groups in the evening or so. This is the rooftop terrace towards the west side, where it's nice to have a sundowner and a chat in the evening. This is after sundown, looking towards the kitchen on the rooftop terrace, which is used for the guest apartment. So the guests who stay with us can use this kitchen for their breakfast and meals. This is how it looks when it's nobody there. This is a split picture of how the guest apartment looks. They're basically like small hotel rooms with a shower and toilet, and they share a kitchen together. And these 2 neighbors just built the beds for the apartments in the workshop that you saw just now. So this is the bigger. We have 2 small one and 1 bigger guest apartment. The bigger one is since 2015 actually all the time used for refugees. We had, as you all know, we had lots of refugees from Syria in 2015. So we took a family with 1 little boy, and the woman was pregnant. So they are 4 people now, and we managed to get them a nice apartment now after 6 years, after Kafka's bureaucracy horror that is really making me ashamed of my own government. And eventually they got their permit, and we managed to give them a big apartment. And now, but some people, a family of Ukraine is living here. So it looks as if this will be for refugees for good, as long as there's people like Putin in the world. So, and this is a view into the sauna on the rooftop terrace. This terrace is not as clean and neat as it's on this picture anymore, because we have our beehives now here. So we do our own city honey, and the bees are here. And what you see a little of here is this bathtub that's actually a jacuzzi. And what you don't see is that it has a open roof view to the stars, and you can close the sliding door. So if you want to have a intimate time with your loved one, you can close the door and use the jacuzzi. And this is lucky me on the rooftop terrace on the east side. That's where we have the morning sun, and where we have some green on the terrace. And you see here this where we've been in the library. Here is the sauna. And this is also a nice spot. Nowadays, we in summer we make open air video viewing. You see later. So like this, when there's soccer matches or something, and we looking at movies here. This is Christine, my wife. She is looking on top of the penthouse. We have our own solar system where we create our own electricity for most of what we need. And this is again is a view at my apartment. So this is where I sit here. I could wave out here and you would see me. This is how it looks when I come home, maybe in the front of my apartment, because the kids not only use the children's play room, obviously they use the whole house to play. And that's really great, because in a big city like Vienna, to raise kids is great if you have resources like in a community where the kids are safe and they can use the whole house to play. And this is my terrace just out here. When I look here, this is how it looks. This is lucky me sitting outside. And this is when you get blackmailed by some neighbors. They want trick or treat, I think it's called in English. So that they blackmail you for sweets, but they in return come with nice clothes. So this was a brief and fast tour through our co-housing. Actually, it's eco-village, urban eco-village. And now I would like to go back to the subject of our meeting. As I told you, we were the first project in Austria that was started with a Dragon Dreaming workshop. We were just lucky, because just when we found the group, our core founding group, I heard of a friend who invited good old, what's his name? You know, the in my age,
John Croft.
Thanks. Yeah, who invited John Croft to Vienna for the first time. So I was taking part of this workshop, and by pure accident, one of my later neighbors, Marcus, who is also our architect, was also there without us knowing about it. And we immediately thought this is a great way to start a project. And so we organized Dragon Dreaming workshop for our own project. And now after we moved in here, I started or founded with some people of the Viennese and Austrian scene cooperative housing company to create and start community projects for people and with people who want to live that way. And that's what I did up until March 2021, when I moved out of this company. And then I had time, 1.5 years, and I wrote this book. It's called Leben in Gemeinschaft, Praxishandbuch, with a nice foreword by Diane Leaf Christian, your Ferian, she is not close to you, but she is closer to you than us. She is living in the not in the Rust Belt. I think it's the Bible Belt, in the States. And what I did is I spent a lot of time to describe how Dragon Dreaming can work to start a community, a co-housing community or a community, and also interviewed Ilona. She gave a nice interview, and what I did is showing, and that'll I'll show you now, a Karabirrdt possible for a group that starts, and I'll show you just now. Just have to, yeah. So this is one example that I'm also showing in the book, of a Karabirrdt that is not top from upside down, it's from left side to the right side. So the start is here and the finish is here on the right hand side. And I didn't split it into 16 areas, but into 4. So it has the dreaming, the planning, the acting, and the celebration phase. And the colors that I used here for these cards are already coded with the group or circles, actually, because I suggest the Socratic terrible word in English, system. And so that would mean by the color of the card, you know which group is in charge of this milestone. And obviously by the round dot that's either not filled or partially filled or completely filled, you know how far this task has been going. And yet groups are not happy with it because you don't really see the time arrow, especially when you create a community living project right from the beginning. If you build yourself or if you refurbish, you at least looking into time frames of 3 to 4, 5, sometimes 10 years until you move in. And therefore, I was looking for something that does both show you the Karabirrdt way of how the various tasks and milestones are interlocked and wind together, and yet giving you an indication on what the time arrow is. And I wasn't really successful in doing that. I'll show you later what I found, but maybe first we make a round and look at the feedback from you. What is your findings and what is your views about it? And Cornelia, do you want to start?
Yeah, I have to say I don't have so much experience with using it, but I realized that for me, the dreaming circle and these kind of things are very clear that it's very useful. But this one I had a bit more doubts, so that was my main reason why I was coming. And I used a little bit as inspiration for my the project I accompanied from Sieben Linden. They have the Gemeinschaftskompass.
Yeah,
and I saw there that they also had kind of used the dragon dreaming process, but they didn't use the Karabirrdt because they felt they needed a more rational, clear timeline type of setting. So that's where I had a bit my doubts, and that was a bit what I came into the sessions, but I don't really have experience yet with using it for a housing project.
Yeah, interesting, because John was living in Sieben Linden quite some times. And yes, he influenced them, but yeah, as you said, yeah, they didn't use the Karabirrdt in that way either. And Eva Stützel, who wrote the Gemeinschaftskompass, she is also very fond of Sochocracy nowadays.
Mm.
And she asked Diane, actually, Diane, who was for many years a teacher in Consens organization, she is now complete into Sochocracy, and I had many Zoom calls with her about it. But that's another subject. Thanks, Cornelia. Markus, magst du weitermachen? Sorry, we can't hear you, Markus. Sorry. Then Fairy Ann, do you want to tell us your views about it and what you might want to share?
Thank you so much for being an incredible inspiration. My mind is like, what is possible with sociocracy and dragon dreaming? I'm almost crying. I had a couple of questions. I'm curious if you use dragon dreaming now as like for any of the projects you're doing or for daily living, if it's still a living part of the community. And of course, I have the huge question is, how I saw it looked like the Greens were the financial people, and how did you raise money for this? Was how much of it came from the people who live there and how much of it came from elsewhere? But and just seeing all the children in the open space and the hallways, this is so brilliant and it's beautiful.
Yeah, thanks. I also regard myself lucky to to live here, and maybe I answer your questions just now, because then we don't lose time on them later, because it's so the one question was, do we use dragon dreaming in our day-to-day living? Yes. So if one group starts a project, they might start with a dreaming circle if it's like a bigger project, and yes, we always try to remind ourselves to spend enough energy also for the celebration, which is in our culture not common. You know, in our culture, you work and plan and work hard, and you achieve and you plan and you work hard, but you don't celebrate. So that's what we always try to remind ourselves, and that's helpful until this day. And the other question with the financing, yes, we had the people putting in about almost 20% of the total costs in savings. So it was divided by individual square meter, and so that's not common in the States. But I give you an example. So we had about 600 euros you paid into the box or into the pot for each individual square meter, and a small apartment like mine, whereas has about 40 square meters, so it's about 25,000 euros roughly, or dollars, it's more or less the same nowadays, that you put into the pot at the beginning. And that was almost 20% of the total cost. It wasn't completely, because we also bought the commercial space in the ground floor and the first floor, where nobody put in money, because we rent out to offices and to shops. So what we did, in addition to that, we collected money by the way of a Vermögenspool. That's an Austrian invention, how to lend money from people without using a bank, and that works quite well. And this way we got slightly above 20%, which in Austria, Germany, or Switzerland, you need in order to get to get the bank loans. Otherwise, the banks would just not give you lend you money if you don't have anything yourself. So that was the way we financed it. Thanks. Dann Eike, magst du noch was sagen? Also wenn es gerade geht bei dir. Ich glaube, Eike ist jetzt gerade beschäftigt oder kann gerade nicht. Franka, wie schaut es bei euch aus? Magst du noch was uns mitteilen zu dem Thema?
Also, ich weiß nicht, sorry, I forgot again. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Karabirrdt, which is in a circle shape, where you put in the dragon dreaming phase as well. Markus and Eike, I think they somehow invented it, and I like this shape because it helps to see in which phase you are.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I always thought that's a good invention. Still, it gets a bit chaotic as well, because it's always difficult as well to see the time frame or to go back and forth again. But I guess this is more in my mind than I guess it's more because of my my socialization that I need something really clear and in line. I think this is the bigger problem than the tool. So I think it's a relearning as well, which might need to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Franka. That's good that you mentioned. I don't know the circular Tool that Markus invented. Eike oder Markus, könnt ihr dazu was sagen oder was in den Chat schreiben? Oder
Ja,
unseren
klar.
Link schicken?
Also ich bin jetzt wieder gerade da.
Ja. Hallo.
Ich kann auf jeden Fall kurz was dazu sagen. Ich weiß nicht, ob der Markus noch uns hört sonst. Genau, sein Ton geht nicht, schreibt er gerade. Also das Kreis Karabirrdt ist eigentlich sehr ähnlich wie das Karabirrdt, das wir gerade gesehen haben. It's very similar to the Karabirrdt we saw before. It's just a circle like a track cleaning wheel. And so you have each faces like in the wheel. And in the middle of the circle, we put it the individuum, the Bewusstsein, the being here. And the out of the circle, the others, out of the circle lines, that's the Umwelt, or Mitwelt.
Surrounding.
And yeah, so it's like more or less, it's working with the same conditions like the other Karabirrdt. The only point is that it's in a circle, and so it's possible that you can continue like works or to-dos from celebrating to dreaming again. So it's like a never-ending circle. It's not fixed on these 2 points, the start and the beginning. It's even more in non-chronicle time. So it's in the normal Karabirrdt, it's also it's still difficult sometimes to understand, okay, in which time line we are now. Are we in the chronic time from now to tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, or are we in other times relations that are really close connected to dragon dreaming philosophy? And so in the circle Karabirrdt, like even more in the non-chronicle time.
Markus just posted that he can show a picture. Markus, ich habe das Bildschirm freigegeben. You could share your screen and show us the picture if you want, while Eike just explained it. Danke, Eike. Der Markus hat gemeint, er kann uns ein Foto zeigen. Vielleicht geht das.
Ja. Ich glaube, das ist auch ein...
And while Markus is sharing his screen, so it's coming. That looks nice. So, Eike, magst du was dazu sagen, nachdem wir den Markus nicht hören?
Ja, genau. Also hier seht ihr jetzt auch, tatsächlich, ja, das ist ein Karabirrdt von einem Gemeinschaftsprojekt Wolfen Nord, und das wir begleitet hatten. Und da sieht man dann auch, you're seeing the four different faces, and there's another point we're doing different. In the original dragon dreaming wheel is going not clockwise, or it's going the other round.
It's going Australian.
Yeah, and it's connected to where the sun goes, no?
Yeah.
And so we thought, no, we are not living in Australia. We're living here at the other side of the world, and it's a lot of difficult stuff and complexity. So we decided to make the dragon dreaming wheel clockwise. That is not another challenge for the people to understand what's happening. And so the Karabirrdt is also going like clockwise. And then, yeah, you see it's the different, this is a very special one I really like a lot, because it's a adaptable or a growable Karabirrdt. the to-dos, the post-its are fixed with needles, and at the needles you see little stripes or like.
And they're like strings, are they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you can move the post-its, or you can put another one and put another string, and it's adaptable for being changed in the project. What especially for living projects, in my opinion, is quite important. Yes, I don't know if there are any more questions. I don't want to talk much.
That's great. Thank you, Markus and Eike, for sharing, because that's a really nice example, and it's good that you brought up the point of southern or northern hemisphere. And also for me, it's always a bit of challenge that the evolution runs counterclockwise, and. So what I would want to share now with you, because we're almost at the end of our time, is what I found, and it could be helpful to some of you. And I will try it with one of my groups, with one of the next Dragon Dreaming workshops I give, because what the people are always asking me is, in nowadays where people are very often cooperate and coordinate themselves via online meetings and online tools, they don't meet personally all that much, especially in pandemic times. And also for task management, they would like to have something digital so that they can use with their computer. And so I searched a lot, and I got across this software from the UK, that Ajoa. Does anyone know that? I think Ajoa is how you pronounce it. I can show you. That is the software.
Can you write it in the chat?
Yeah. I'll give you a link just now, and I'll show you. Because this is the software that was originally started with this mind mapping software that I used for many years. And it was called iMindMap, and it got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 generations. And after I had to buy a new computer, I found out that the software doesn't work anymore. And then I found out that my system was so old that there is no update. So I have to upgrade to the new thing they call Ajoa. And then I found out that they also, let me show you. That is how it looks like on a trial that I did. So this is this software showing you can create for each circle, like in Sociocracy. There is one circle community, one is finance, and one is building, and one is communication. And you can create tasks each. And the nice thing is that you can also have various ways to look at it. You can see it as a workflow, but you can also look at it in circles. And that I found very attractive, because it's very close to the way that you work in Sociocracy. Where each group is a circle and has their subcircles. And so this is how it shows you the same amount of tasks in a different view. And what you see here, for instance, if we zoom into this a little bit, it was the wrong way, sorry. My mouse is too fast. What you see here is around the circles. It shows you how the development of task or milestone, how somebody has started already here, and this is already 75 or 80% done. So, and that's what I found quite interesting. You can have these categories, and you can change the layout, and you can look at it either as a timeline, then you have to upgrade the software. You can look at it in workflow, like I showed you now. And this is what I put together in a download to my book. So the way that the book of mine works is that you have in the book, there's no color pictures, it's just text, it's just hardcore code, so to say, and all the interesting goodies are connected with QR codes. So you get to the downloads, you get to the checklist and all that stuff. So I created a download where I put that together and described it. And if you like, I can share it with you. Just have to see this open. So this is how the PDF that you get when you go to the download, where I describe how this works and the various views that you can use it with. And I would just I send you the link of, I gave you the link of this download just now. Or I have to look for it and put it in the chat. So, but I would like a brief reflection of when you see this. Do you think that could be interesting at all, or is this too digital or too whatever, freaky? Since I'm not a digital native, I'm always not sure if that is like good or too much or too little. So who has a reflection on that?
What I like about it is it makes it accessible to different kinds of minds, right? Think differently. And it's particularly useful for when my dream is to have a Karabirrdt like the circle one with pins, because we're all in the same place doing the same thing in real time and real space. But if you're not and you're working with people in other places, it's really useful.
Yeah, thanks.
The reflection is now on the digital Karabirrdt, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, in general, I think it's necessary in these times. We found another tool called Miro.
Yeah.
It works really, really nice, but it's a shit because you have to pay for it. So you can use free maps, and for the starting, yeah, you think it's wonderful, but then if you start another project, then it's getting really complicated and yeah, very sad. But it's quite expensive. But in general, it's wonderful software. And then I think we need these tools if you want to be part of the change.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Ja, ich bin gerade noch in der Zoom-Konferenz. Ja, es war gut, oder? Super. Es hat nochmal so eine andere Gesamtstimmung gebracht.
So,
was habe ich dir? Ja, die haben sich noch ein Eis geholt. Damit habe ich auch nichts zu tun. Aber die waren auch alle happy, dass die da waren und froh. Und wirklich, also das Feedback ist sowieso, die da sind, Hammer. Ja, also es ist wirklich, ich glaube, es ist einfach sehr kompatibel mit ganz vielen Kindern so.
So Eike, I think it's you. Warte, ich schalte den Eike mal stumm. So, so sorry, Eike, I just quit your microphone because now I have this link for this download that you can get directly into my book, and you can download this description of what I just showed you now from this Ajoa's company. The backside is they also want money for it. So I use the sort of cheaper version that is that I can have almost everything. But as you saw, if I wanted to do this look at it again. If I wanted to do this special view, they asked for a upgrade. You see,
I'm now wondering if Dragon Dreaming collectives might start paying for this as a collective,
yeah.
like groups of Dragon Dreamers in different countries or different places could have access to this
Yeah.
and share the cost.
Yeah. Well, if it's interesting for the Dragon Dreaming community, it might be interesting then to talk with these people. They are in the UK, to get like a group package or something. If you look at it now, for instance, the Chant timeline I cannot do. They would ask for an upgrade. You see, that would be the sophisticated timeline. But what the regular things that I see here, the workflow and the canvas, is with the basic version. But the basic version also I think costs you $100 a year or so, or 140. So it's like a Zoom a license. They in Austria it also costs around 140 a year for like a basic license. So that's time's already over, but I want to do a final round. So sorry for missing out. It's short past 5. Let's do a checkout round. So how do you leave this meeting now? Obviously more confused than when you came in, but Cornelia, do you want to start again?
Yes, so first of all, thank you for organizing it. I found it very interesting. Also because I coincidentally found out about your housing project, like because my friend who I visited in May just lives 500 meters away. And one of my other friends who is an architect who works in that architecture studio now.
What's your name?
David Krala, I think.
Ah, yeah. I see them at lunch break because we have meals together there.
Yeah. So it was a nice surprise to find out that it has been done with Dragon Dreaming and all of that. And I also found it quite interesting. So to get a bit more ideas of how other people have experience with Karabirrdt, and I found your last input also very interesting. So I think it's an interesting way to deal with it. And I guess maybe some groups might like to stick to the traditional Karabirrdt, and some groups might prefer this type of software. So I think it's nice to have different options in mind of how you can deal with it. So I'm very happy, and I found my time well spent. And yeah.
Thanks, Cornelia. While Ferry is next, Marcus, do you want to give us just a little feedback in the chat so that then we see at least read you, and Ferry, and you're next.
I'm leaving very inspired that such an incredible, huge project could be achieved through Dragon Dreaming. And I'm also leaving inspired to learn a lot more about sociocracy. I know very little about it. So thank you so much for being an inspiration and sharing all the work that you did.
Thanks.
Wow.
Thanks, Mia. In the meantime, Marcus wrote, "Danke, Marcus." Marcus wrote, "Thanks a lot for the session. It was really inspiring to learn about your project in Vienna, and I will be looking into the tool you have suggested. Have a great day, you all." Ike, you want to have, you'd be the last one. I switched your mic off, but you should be able to switch it on again, if you can.
Yeah, hello, here I'm again. Thank you a lot for being me here. For me, it's not selbstverständlich that I can take part of it, even if I'm not there with my full attention all the time. It was quite interesting for me to get known of you, Heinz. This was a super experience. In general, I'm fascinated about your project. What I got noticed from your report now. In general, it was a bit too long for me, this project part, and I wished to go a bit more deeper in this Karabirrdt stuff, but I hadn't the time for this, so it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, it was very inspiring that you're still using Dragon Dreaming, because sometimes also I don't know, like every practitioner of dragon dreaming get to this point, I think, that you think, okay, what the fuck I'm doing all the time, and is this really working? And and you're not sure about things like this. So I was happy to see such a project still living and working with dragon dreaming. And I would be interested in get more connection to you, Heinz, about even maybe the digital stuff and the tools, and maybe the circle Karabirrdt if you are interested. And another point, but I will use we're doing Erasmus Dragon Dreaming project next year, also in Austria. And yeah, maybe you will be part of it.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I just posted my mail address in the chat, so just to easy get in contact with me, and yes, I'm glad to continuously share. And Eike, you might be also in the list of Ilona where she writes out these meetings.
Yes.
And there is one coming up now that I just saw the mail of her. Maybe we can then get in touch there as well and keep
nice.
it. Good.
Thank you very much, Heinz.
Yeah, thanks. So we lost somebody, but
yeah, Franca wrote me. She had to left because Marlo was crying.
Yeah. Okay. So
needed some more attention.
Give her our regards and see you maybe in some other meetings or get in contact. I thank you for taking part and sharing with me and showing your interest, and yeah, and if you have ideas or things you want to stay in contact about, then just use my email address, and when you write me an email, just remember me where we met because I'm not very good at remembering names. My wife always says she remembers every names, but she unfairly distributes it again. So that's a little bit of my problem too. So have a great day and see you sometime, maybe somewhere. Ciao, ciao.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks.
Ciao, Markus.